You're listening to One Time You Told Me. I'm your host, Randy Mays, and I'm here with my co-host, Jen. But before we get to the show, if you like what you hear, give us a like and consider subscribing. We'd certainly appreciate it. Now on with the show. Okay, here we are. Episode number 3, One Time You Told Me.
I'm Jen.
I'm Randy. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Hey, I wanted to start out this episode with a correction already, and then a clarification on something that we talked about, and that I'm going to continue to talk about as things go on. First, the correction, for those of you paying attention, we weren't in a cathedral. A cathedral is a type of ceiling. We were in the sanctuary.
Okay.
So I got hung up on that word, and that's the word I used, and it was wrong. So your mother was very quick to point that out to me. And then the clarification is in the previous fire department story and in future ones, you'll hear this. And I use the term truck and engine.
Okay.
A fire engine is what people typically think about what firefighters ride in. You know, it's got ladders and it's got the hoses and a pump, and the crew rides in it and all kinds of stuff. A truck, in terminology that I use a lot and in this area is common vernacular. A truck is a ladder truck.
Oh, okay.
It's got the ladders permanently attached to it.
Right.
There's two types: a regular ladder truck, and then a tiller truck, which is the kind that looks like a semi truck.
And it has like the basket on it, right?
Some have baskets, some don't. Those are actually usually aerial platforms, technically, versus a ladder. They're ladder trucks with platforms on them. But
Right.
So now, I will be the first one to admit that I will sometimes say truck when I'm talking about just an engine. But technically the term truck...
It's a fire truck.
It really is. But the term truck around in this area, in a lot of areas, means a ladder truck.
I've also heard you use the term rig a lot.
They're all rigs.
Okay, so any kind of vehicle coming out of the fire department is a rig.
Yeah, and
okay.
You know, I'm not going to say that that's a national, vernacular or what have you.
Right.
But around here, that's what we call our apparatuses is the technical name, but they're rigs.
Okay. So, makes sense.
So, get that out of the way.
Well, that kind of makes me think that, and I had been thinking for the past couple episodes, that I know just a lot of kind of offhand knowledge, I guess, just from being your daughter, that aren't necessarily common for everybody else. That is like, these fun kind of ask a firefighter type questions.
Oh, okay.
So I came up with a list, and then I left it at home. So then I found a list that I'm just going to pull some questions from.
Okay.
Because it's like 67-ish longs, and as you will all start to learn, my dad could answer just one question for a whole hour if he really wanted.
Yes, I can.
So we're going to try and go through these somewhat quickly and not as in-depth as I'm sure he would like.
Although, leave a comment.
Yeah, ask away, my friends.
And something else I wanted to mention, by the way, leave comments, subscribe, like. I'm talking to YouTube people, but yes.
Yep, do all the things. Hit that subscribe button.
Show us some love. Okay, well, what do you got? I mean...
Yeah, okay. So some of them are going to be kind of silly. Some of them are going to be more in-depth.
Okay.
But the first, and I think kind of the most like generic basic one is what's like the typical time that it would take to get to a call if I were to call 911, like on a grand scale.
Yeah. Okay. There's actually that's actually defined by federal standards. NFPA has response times.
What is NFPA?
National Fire Protection Agency.
Oh, okay.
And they kind of write the rules, recommendations, if you will, and rules for all kinds of things related to fires, if you will. And it gets a lot broader than that, but my exposure to them is fire service related. So they define, and I was a little surprised because this apparently has changed over the years. But as it stands right now, the NFPA standard, 1710 to be exact, calls for an average response time to a fire for 9 minutes and 20 seconds.
Oh.
Which is a lifetime.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I remember the national standard used to be 6.5 minutes on fires and 6 minutes on aid calls.
Okay.
Around here, we're still kind of holding on to the old times, apparently.
Yeah.
I did a brief look at what Kirkland currently targets.
Right.
Because the NFPA, does not define a law. They define a recommendation, a guideline.
Right.
Which can be important because the insurance companies use them to define your insurance rates.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Departments have to publish their response times, and insurance companies use that information to lower or raise your insurance rates.
Right.
How much damage is that fire going to do? So around here, and again, I'm reading what Kirkland has, and I'm pretty sure the other departments follow it, are pretty close to it. They have, so there's three aspects to this. There's the dispatch time.
Okay.
And which has gotten so much better over the years. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
And then there's what we call a turnout time, which is what it takes from when the station receives the call to when the rigs leave the station.
Ooh, okay. So that leads me into just a real quick question then.
Well, let me feel the last one is the travel time.
Okay. So like how quick it takes traffic,
Yeah.
with all the lights and bells. Well, no traffic with all the lights and bells.
Sirens, but yes.
Bells and sirens, same thing. Okay. So then the next semi-fun question, how quickly, typically, can a firefighter get his gear on? Get their gear
That's
on?
actually probably one of the quickest things to happen. I'm going to go with the typical, which is most of the crews that I'm familiar with and what I used to do is my bunker pants with the boots in them would sit right next to the rig, right next to the in my case, the driver's door or the officer's door, depending on when I was, where I was. And then the coat would hang from a grab bar or something like that. So I'm literally walking out into the bay. I'm walking into the pants, pulling the suspenders up over my shoulders, throwing the coat on, and I'm stepping into the rig, and I'm doing that in 5 to 10 seconds.
Cool.
So apparently Kirkland's standard is 60 to 80 seconds, 60 seconds for EMS and 80 seconds for fire suppression. Now, that 60 to 80 is probably, I'm sure it encompasses everything from when the tones go off to when they're in their rig and ready to go.
And the tones is like the alarm.
Yeah, when the station is notified that they've got a call going.
So that extra 20 seconds between them is to calculate for getting the gear on.
Exactly.
Okay, so 20 seconds is the cushion.
Yeah.
So in reality,
it's a long time.
10 seconds. Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
So when you couple that all together, Kirkland's targeted response times or travel times are 4 minutes.
Wow.
Which is doable in Kirkland. I mean, now keep in mind we're talking about first in engine company or first in aid car.
Okay. What does that mean? What does first in mean?
Well, every address has a station that is its first in station, meaning that the first crews that should get there, or if it's a one crew call, it's a garbage can fire out in the middle of the street. You're only going to get one engine company.
Yeah.
And that's their first in area. So around here, for example, there's, Bellevue has Station 2 and Station 4 in the Eastgate, Factoria areas.
Okay.
And, Station 2 has its own area. Station 4 has its own area. They slightly overlap.
Right.
And so when a call comes in Station's 2 area, Station 2 is the one that gets dispatched unless they're already out.
Right.
Then they go to the next in engine company or next in aid car, et cetera, and work from there. That is all now computer calculated.
That's amazing.
Algorithm
for the win.
Yep. Go Gates. So, that's all computer done. And boy, it's changed a lot over the years and how it's done. But it's now very sophisticated software. And the dispatchers, it's all pre-planned and ready to go.
Good.
And its dispatch has also gotten really impressive. And it's in such a way that right now, they pick up the call. The first thing they're going to ask you, what's the nature of your call? And they do that so that they can, one, determine whether you're looking for police or fire.
Yeah. And
if you're looking for fire, what are they going to send? Because as soon as they know, okay, this is a possible house fire.
Right.
Or this is a car fire, or this is an aid call or something like that, they're pushing a button that says, for example, if it's a house fire, it's going to say structure fire response.
Okay.
I'm just pushing one button, and then the address is being entered in.
Oh, okay.
And then the computer goes, oh, okay, that's this kind of response, and these are the rigs going.
Before you're even off of 911, which should be, before you're off of the phone, your clock has started.
Yes.
Good.
Yes. Rigs are rolling before you hang up the phone with dispatch.
Good.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
I mean, a lot of places, and we're fortunate, I want to say that up front, we are very privileged and fortunate to be in the area we are.
Yep.
Because that is not the case across the country.
No. And for a variety of reasons. Another one is a whole nother story, but we have the best EMS system on the planet. You have the highest chance of surviving a witnessed cardiac arrest than anywhere else in the world.
Which is
amazing. In the Seattle area.
Amazing.
Yep. And that can all come down to one doc, and that's, again, a very different one doctor who put the whole program together years and years ago.
Yeah. Okay, so that's, like I said, guys, we can spend a lot of time on a question.
Yep.
Next one here is, what is the most common type of fire response that you guys go to?
Fire response?
Yeah. Like, not necessarily like crashes or anything like that, because we know that's often.
Yep.
And not like aid calls, because also very, very often.
Yep.
What's the most common reason to have a fire call come through the system? That can't be like
automatic fire alarms, and they're almost always false.
Okay. See, it's not that common.
Although, it goes in waves. And I will not segue into deep, long story, although I could. But over the years, I've seen waves go where automatic fire alarms for 4 or 5 months were absolutely nothing. And then you'll get 3 or 4 in a row that are fires.
That are real, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Carmen's got to keep you on its toes.
Exactly. So automatic fire alarms is the number one of actual structure fires. What's kitchen fires are probably, this is a bit of a guess because it's been a while since I've been that deep in the system. Yeah. But kitchen fires are probably the next, and it's food on the stove. Yep. Which a lot of times
do they actually turn into anything?
Other than embarrassment, no.
Okay.
Most of the time they don't. Most of the time they get caught, and that again, and I gotta give kudos to the people in this area too, because people aren't afraid to call 911 around here. There are some areas of the country where that's somebody else's business.
Exactly.
And we don't get that here. We get the calls. They come in, and so food on the stove typically is probably the number one common actual event that's not a false alarm. And again, I'm guessing here. Yeah. Someone in the fire service that's more current in the fire service may correct me, but
and all of these questions are from your perspective,
right? So my getting old perspective, but so automatic fire alarms, which are mostly false, and then of those that aren't false or that aren't from a fire alarm or just called in, are kitchen fires, which can go south, and do go south. I think one of the topics that we talked about in the future is grease fires. Yeah. How to deal with a grease fire.
Yeah, we've got a couple.
That now, but
couple things to.
Yeah, I'll just say as teases, don't use water. And then now, as far as just general fire department calls, aid calls are by far. Yeah. I'm guessing about 80% of all fire department calls are aid calls. Yeah. And we do it really well around here.
Yeah, we
That's
do.
why I said we're number one area.
For those who don't know, which is everyone, I've had to use that service myself. And so, yes, I know. And I, again, very fortunate they were here within freaking seconds of the call.
And I got to tell you, young lady.
I got a young lady.
As a firefighter EMT parent.
Oh, no.
Having to call 911 for your own daughter is a really, really difficult thing to do.
Sorry.
It's okay. The only thing worse
I was breathing in pain.
The only thing worse was being at the station, hoping that you didn't recognize the address that just comes in.
Oh, yeah. That never happened here, I don't think, right? You weren't ever on call.
No. I mean, every once in a while I would hear a call go out because I fortunately did not live in the first in area of where my station was.
Oh, okay. So you wouldn't have anyways.
No.
That's a relief,
which was
but also
rather
scary.
Fortunate. Yes. But I did from time to time recognize an address, like an automatic fire alarm at the school or something like that.
Right.
Never a personal address.
Yeah.
Knock on wood.
Okay, that's good.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
So. Well, not that I'm going to do it now. Anyway, but...
yeah, no, I've put you through enough of that trauma
yes, you
on
have.
your own.
So, aid calls, structure fires, and car crashes. I think car crashes are I'm going to generalize that into just rescues.
Well, I mean, the King County, for those of you who don't know, that's the closest region to where we are.
Mm-hmm.
The King County did just release a statement saying that this is the highest year for car crashes they've had in 50 years.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Good job.
Yeah, we're winning up here in Washington State. We're just loving our freeways and just crashing into the rails all over the place. So
yeah, that's going to generate some comments.
I mean... In case you can't tell, I'm being sarcastic, folks.
Yeah, no, I'm just people are going to comment. Oh, yeah, I saw this guy do this, and I saw this guy do that. Yeah, we know.
Yeah.
Believe me, I know. Driving around here sucks.
Yeah, you can see it everywhere right now.
Pay attention, people. Get your
that's
phone.
That's why we're focusing on fires today.
Yeah, get your head out of the phone. Sorry.
But yeah, that's why we're focusing on fires today and not the car crashes.
Yep.
That's a whole different list of questions. Okay, next one is how often do the rigs need to be washed? And if it's in the middle of the night, are y'all really out there washing the rigs?
Well, my perspective is a little bit different than my observations.
Okay.
And for the volunteers, yeah, we would wash it. And that was a officer by officer decision. Some officers elected we're going to get up in the morning and we're going to wash the rig before we go out of service.
Okay.
I didn't do that because I typically like to leave the station at 5. We technically went off shift at 5, and I'd get up and go home and go back to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't necessarily want to wake the rest of the crew up to do that. So I would say, no, we're washing it when we get back from the call.
Right.
Now, duty crews that are the 24, 48-hour shift guys, they typically, unless it gets really, really dirty or something like that, they'll typically just do it at shift start or at mid-shift at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
When they do their rig checks.
Yeah, makes sense.
So
it's not like after every single call you are required to
No. And again, if for some reason the rig got really, really dirty, they might wash it. But
right.
Usually if the rig got really dirty, it was something that involved a lot of work, and they don't want to wash the rig when they get back to the station. They want to go back to bed.
I figured not.
Or get something to eat or what have you.
Yeah.
So, but it's typically around here, 7 o'clock, I believe, is the start of a shift, and you check your rigs out.
Yeah.
And even if you're on a 48-hour shift, which most departments around here, I believe, are not doing, that 7 o'clock is still rig check time.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. All right. Next question is, what is the difference between aid car, ambulance, medic unit?
Yeah, I throw those around a lot, don't I?
You do.
Yeah.
And, well, like I mentioned, I've had to use them.
Yep. 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 Well, so...
And honestly, I don't know what ones I wrote in when. I literally
I don't. Well, let me break that down real quick. So in EMS, as far as EMS is concerned, because we talk about fire trucks and engine companies, right? Or ladder trucks and fire trucks. Blah blah blah. There I go. I'm screwing it up already. So as far as EMS is concerned, there's aid cars, ambulances, and medic rigs. And I kind of got that a little out of order. Ambulances are private industry. They're private companies.
Okay.
They're not part of the fire service. Some fire departments around here use exclusively aid or ambulances. They don't have aid cars.
Okay.
They'll run an engine to the aid call, and then they'll bring in what they call an AMB, or an ambulance.
Right. Okay.
Some do a mix. That's more common, where they'll take an aid car to the call, but they won't do the transport because career firefighters are at a premium. We don't have enough already.
Right.
So if we can take an ambulance and have them do the transport and get that paid crew back in service as quickly as possible. A lot of departments are doing it that way.
Yep.
Other departments like to have that last little personal touch. We're your fire department. We're going to take care of you. We're taking you to the hospital.
Right.
That's an aid car.
Okay.
A medic unit is a fire department rig.
Okay.
But that has paramedics in it.
Ooh, okay.
And that's, I know that's a little bit off the question, but that's paramedics.
I know, but
paramedicine. So EMTs, your typical firefighter is an EMT. Advanced are medics.
Mm-hmm.
Medics around here, they can deliver medications, IVs, and they're just a higher level of training.
Right.
So you don't get a medic on every call. You get it's an ALS call, advanced life support call, versus EMS call.
Okay.
Emergency medical call. And so medics, there's probably one medic for every 2, 3, maybe 4 ambulance areas.
Okay.
So I think it's a little bit
like
better than that. But
share.
Yeah, and actually, in the Greater East Side, not every department has a medic rig, but the medic rigs cover all of the areas.
Right.
So Redmond, for example, provides it for Woodinville, Kirkland, Redmond, Bothell.
Right.
They cover the medic rigs for those areas. So those are the different EMS rigs.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next question is, and you've kind of already gone through, is what does a typical night on duty kind of look like for you?
For me?
In general, for when, you had a very different experience than career, right? Because you were volunteer.
I was a night on duty. That's a good way to put it. Career is a shift, because around here, again, it's 48 hours for most departments now. And that's going to look very different than a volunteer night on shift.
Right. So say there's nothing happening. It's a quiet night. Nobody's calling. What are y'all doing?
Training is the politically correct word. Okay. And I joke. No, training is the number one priority as far as if you have lack time, you want to train.
Okay.
A lot of that training is in the station. It's EMS training, and there's continuing education. You need to maintain your EMT, and a lot of crews will use that time to maintain that. So you're not
just sitting twiddling thumbs?
No. Okay. There is a fair amount of that when the training is done.
Right.
But, a lot of guys will just go straight to bed because, my shift would start at 7 o'clock.
Okay. At night.
Right. And go till 5 a.m. in the morning. Now, we could stay longer if we wanted to. Yeah. Start getting past 7 o'clock, and the career stations would be kind of calling up and said, hey, guys, we got this. Go home.
Yeah.
But, so 7 o'clock at night, and when I was an officer, I did a little bit different than when I was a driver, and was a little different than when I was the third. And every officer does a little bit different, but typically it's going to be get your rig settled in, make sure you're ready to go by 7 o'clock, and then do whatever training that you need to do. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's out at when we had the air unit, we would go out and set up a rehab station just to practice setting that stuff up, get familiar with the rig, things like that.
And the air unit is the unit that carries the air tanks to a scene, right?
It provides, it's called an air unit because it provides the ability to refill air packs. Okay. But it's more than that. It's got lighting equipment on it. It's got rehab equipment on it. Okay. It's a support rig.
Yeah. Okay.
For large incidents, it's a support rig.
It's not like the helicopter.
No. It's not a. Okay. God, I wish, but no, that's not a police helicopter or anything like that.
Well, you say air unit.
I know. It's
helicopter transport.
That's what people think. They're actually become very common in this area. Mm-hmm. A lot of departments. I say a lot of departments have them. A couple, three or four have them, but they get dispatched into different areas, which is good.
Yeah. Okay. Next question is, and this one's I think is kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. Is what's the biggest misconception about firefighting or firefighters today?
That's a difficult one to answer, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to come up with a good, clear answer on that, because being from the firefighter world and being so immersed in it, because I'm still doing work for the fire department.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to understand what the outside world is thinking and seeing.
Yeah.
Because people don't talk to me about it because, why is that a topic, right?
Yeah. But honestly, that kind of could be the answer too, that there isn't any.
There are some, I hear some things from time to time at different social media sites, but it's usually people complaining, and you know what, you give them, if they don't have that to complain about, they're going to have something else to complain about.
Right.
So
it's
little, and it's usually very misconceived. It's like,
yeah.
The one that I know that is out there, and I don't say this is the most common because I don't think it is by any stretch of the imagination. I think firefighters around here are very heavily respected, as they should be.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We have some of the best firefighting services in the country.
Mm-hmm.
But that they just sit around all day, eat ice cream and wait for that call to come in and waste taxpayer money.
Yeah.
Is generally where that complaint comes from. And that nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah.
These guys and gals are busy.
Yeah.
They are very busy.
Yeah.
Lots and lots and lots of training.
Yeah.
And
lots of calls. I mean, I do
fair number of calls. Some departments have stations that are very quiet, but still there's a lot of things to do, a lot of training to keep up on. They're constantly changing how rigs are laid out, and there's just all kinds of things that they got to do. Training is the number one. That's the big one.
Yeah.
And rightfully so, because I've seen differences come up through the years of how good the fire service is, and the training in this area has brought some of the best fire protection, both EMS and general fire protection, that you're going to get anywhere.
Yeah. Absolutely.
These guys are really good. I'm going to fire scenes now and looking at structure fires. 15 years ago, the house would have been gone. And now it's contained to a couple of rooms.
Wow.
I mean, the rest of the house has got some significant damage, smoke and water, stuff like that. But we're not burning them down anymore. Every once in a while, one will get going.
Right.
But that's the opposite. It used to be every once in a while they'd get a real good save on one, and then usually the others you go.
Right.
Now the saves are more common than the losses, and it's a credit to how hard the crews work, how good they are, and how good the training is.
Good. Well, I'm pretty sure that leads into the same answer you're going to have for the next question, which is, what do you think the future of firefighting looks like?
I'll start off with the same. I don't know if I can answer that one today. Because my perspective is if I look back at where we were 20, 30 years ago, 30 years ago, to where we are now, it's a night and day difference.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to say what technology is going to bring, because that's really what it's going to come down to. The spirit is there, at least in this area.
Yeah.
The spirit is there. I will also say that that's going to vary a lot depending on where you are in the country. There are some areas of the country that can't provide the service that we get around here because you don't have the tax base to support full-time paid crews. Yeah, and that ways are being found to change that. So the level of service nationwide is going to get higher and higher and higher to bring it up to where we kind of are now. Or areas like Phoenix is also a really good area. At least it used to be a really, really good area for fire service. But when you define how it's done, everybody else looks at it and says, I can do better. And that's what they work towards. And that's how we got where we are. And so what does the future bring? I'm not sure, but it's good.
I love that. Love that.
It's good. It's I can't imagine how it could get worse than it is. I won't say worse than it is now, because it's not bad. I can't imagine how it will go backwards is maybe a better way to say it.
Yeah.
Now, again, I'm exposed to a particular region.
Yep.
I know the people that run these departments. And so a little bit of a biased view, because they're good people. They really are
helping of privilege
good
up here.
people. So it's hard to look at that and say, no, it won't always be that way, because it's the one thing about municipalities around here have done a good job at is making good fire departments.
Right.
Because it all comes down to whoever runs the municipality on what they decide they're going to do.
Right.
And how they're going to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
So we pay a lot for fire service in this area, and it's worth the cost. And we need more. Let me back up for a second. Say, the future hopefully is finding ways to put more people on staff.
I like that answer. Yeah. I really do.
How many people respond now versus how many? That's one of the biggest differences between a response 15, 20, 30 years ago versus a response now. Say 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, a typical house fire might get you 2 engine companies, a battalion chief, an aid car, and a truck if you're lucky. Now it's a minimum of 3 to 4 engine companies, 2 battalion chiefs, 2 trucks, an aid car, a medic.
Wow.
And that's just for a typical house fire.
Wow.
Go second alarm, and you're going to get almost twice that.
Okay. Here's a quick question that I didn't have on my list. What is the difference between first, second alarm, etc.?
Well, the first alarm is kind of the obvious. It's the initial alarm, and what goes is going to depend on the nature of the call.
Right.
Okay. A house fire, a single occupant residence, is going to get a different response than a multifamily.
Okay.
Is going to get a different response than a commercial because the needs are different.
Right.
In that order, the requirements go up.
Okay.
And actually, it's probably, if I had to guess, it's probably single-family structure fire is the lowest number of rigs going. Commercial is probably second, and then multifamily is going to be the higher number because of potential for rescue.
Right. Okay.
When you're having to empty a building of people, you need bodies.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay.
And specialized equipment.
So then, second alarm is when the dispatch or crew or whomever, the chief, decides they need more and call for more.
And actually, there's a little bit of a misconception there, based upon what it used to be and what you'd see on TV. And they still have, give me a second alarm.
It's a 4-alarm fire.
Right. Well, they say, give me a second alarm. That terminology still gets used. It's a simple way for an incident commander to let dispatch know, I need more rigs. I need more apparatus. And more manpower, or person power, excuse me. But if an incident commander has got a structure fire going and he or she determines I need 2 more engine companies, he's going to ask for dispatch, give me 2 more engine companies. That technically is a second alarm.
Okay. You've
hit the alarm bells a second time now.
Right.
And then you could go third or what have you. And it's a mix. I usually will hear them ask for the individual rigs independently because once they get into a scene and determine kind of what direction it's going to go, it's easier to fine-tune what it is they think they need.
Right.
Based upon and even level. That's changed because now we're following standards of the amount of time that you can be in a call or in a structure and before you have to come out and go through a rehab.
Right.
And so the biggest reason for bringing in more apparatuses is to bring in more firefighters so that you can recycle more frequently. Get the crews out and into rehab and a new fresh crew. Exactly.
Better. Yep.
And get a fresh crew to fight the fire or do whatever it is they're doing.
Better responses. I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. So last few questions here. And I think my very last one's just going to be the silliest one I've ever read.
Okay.
Because I know the answer. So, third to last here. What is your favorite position in the fire department?
If you're talking about on a crew, driver, hands down.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I enjoyed being an officer, but driver was... A driver was an officer with the perk of being able to drive code.
I love that.
And I don't know, some people will kind of listen to this and think, what are you, crazy?
No, going wee-woo really fast is still fun, man.
Yep. That's, by the way, what my granddaughter calls a fire truck is a wee-woo.
That's the coolest thing.
I know. It really is. And there's just something about when you step off of the rig from the driver's door, you're the guy.
Yeah.
You're the man.
Yeah, you are.
That's just it.
Like, so cool. Okay.
Yeah. No.
Fair.
And it was a lot of fun. I do miss the driving.
Yeah.
I miss driving.
Okay. Good answer. Deeper question. What is the most rewarding part about being in the fire department?
The one that stands out as kind of the example, I won't say it's the one, but the example came very, very early in my career.
Okay.
I was, back when I started, it wasn't just EMTs and medics. It was first responders, EMTs and medics. And first responders was a lower level of basically an EMT. You didn't have quite all the training. And you got that first, and then you went and got your EMT. Well, I was just gotten my first responder. Okay. I was in the department for maybe 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
And I got sent out in the officer's position on an aid call in the snow.
Oh, okay. And
it was to a patient that was having what we call a TIA, trans ischemic attack. I don't know if they use that terminology anymore, but it's basically like a stroke, but it's not permanent.
Right.
It's what angina is to a heart attack.
Right.
Okay.
But it's stroke presenting. Right?
It's stroke presenting, yes, and it is affecting the brain. And we went out on that, and it was an older gentleman and his wife, and she was very, very scared.
Yeah.
Okay. So we show up, we do our thing. Being brand new and not really knowing much, I called for a medic. Got my butt chewed out by the medics because, initial strokes are not necessarily medic calls.
Okay.
And when you wake a medic up at 2 o'clock in the morning to go out on something that they don't need to go out on,
ooh,
they're going to let you know it.
Yep. Learn that lesson quick.
So the next shift, I'm on again, different crew.
Okay.
And so that first one wasn't my crew. Right. I was filling in.
Okay.
The second one was my crew.
Okay.
We went out. I got put into the same position. I was the third on the aid car. I apologize. I was the third person on the aid car.
Okay.
When I walked up to the door and that woman answered the door, she saw me, recognized me. The look of relief sealed the deal for me. I was a firefighter.
Yep.
That was just, this is what it's about.
As someone who's been on the other side of it, I completely understand that too.
Yeah.
It really is.
I get a little choked up. I'm sorry, folks, but.
Yep. I'm sitting here tearing too. But again, I've been on that other side of it, unfortunately, and it really does matter. It really does matter to be able to feel safe for a moment.
You're there to treat and take care of a patient, but you're also there to take care of the other patients, and that's the friends and family.
Yeah.
Sometimes that doesn't go very well.
It's a ripple effect.
But most of the time, they're happy to see you, and that's probably the most rewarding part. What I do now is very rewarding, don't get me wrong, because I'm making a difference in how the fire service can better prepare themselves for the different incidents that they're going to. But that one was the one that really strikes the emotional chord.
Oh.
And it's an example. I've had that one multiple times, but that one, the first one is always the biggest shock. And I can say that about a variety of different things that I went through in the fire department. The first one is not always good.
But the relief that you get.
The relief that, and it was clear on her face that she felt, it's going to be okay.
Oh.
He was here last week.
Yeah.
And that did it for me.
Oh.
I knew nothing about what I was doing.
Yeah, I mean,
but
clearly being that green.
Well, but and it also dawned on me that it really is a bigger picture than just going in and providing EMS skills.
It's more than just the knowledge.
You're a person, and you're there to help. Which is really what I knew that going into it. I knew that's why I wanted to do it. I didn't know that I knew it until that moment.
Yeah,
which is why I remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, to lighten things up just a touch, the silliest, most silly question I read about the fire service, because it just makes me giggle on the inside because I know the answers. Do you still use the fire pole?
I'm going to say unequivocally no, with the caveat of I think there might be one or two in Seattle still. I doubt they use them if they're there. They're ankle breakers.
I'm sure. I am sure. I mean, they can't be safe.
No, there's, I believe, one station that I when I started volunteering that it actually just transitioned out of a volunteer station into a career station when I started volunteering. But I believe that was the only station in that department that used to have a fire pole. It didn't at the time, but I could see where it was.
Right.
And now there's a set of stairs.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean,
no, they were. I believe there are some departments throughout the country that you still see it on those real, reality shows that they still use the poles. But
yeah, I know there's several in New York. I mean, it's still because firefighting in New York is its own beast.
Well, it is, but you also got to the space in New York.
Yeah, that's why it's its own beast. They have their own. It's very, very different. But I still think it was so silly because I've known you obviously my whole life. I've never once known the fire department to have a fire pole or anything like that. But also simultaneously, it is one of the most associated things with fire department. If you go to a kindergarten class, right? It's the fire pole. It's just so silly.
Is it still that way? I mean, do they still know about it?
I think in the way it's still in cartoons.
Okay, fair enough.
It's I think it's still on little kid toddler shows.
Let me put it to you this way. It's the first time I've been asked.
Okay. Yeah. See? It's just so silly.
Yep.
Okay.
Well,
those are the questions that I have relating to fire this time.
And that's only scratching the surface. And we are already way over time.
We are, yeah.
But that's okay.
I'm sure you'll hear us say that a lot.
We write the rules, so,
yeah. I'm sure eventually we'll stop saying we're over time, but that's going to be a common theme.
I know the boss. I think
hey, so do I.
Yeah, you probably have better leverage with them than I do.
Just a touch. It's that whole wrapped around the finger thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we should probably put a plug in it.
For now.
Yeah.
I'm going to come up with more questions about different things for maybe a much later episode. Because this was fun. Yeah,
it was. And I do encourage you, again, right at the moment, we are only, I hope to change this soon, but we're only on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're listening to this on YouTube, if you're behind the wheel, look out, please. Pay attention to your driving.
Listening only.
Listening only, yeah. If you are on the internet, on a computer or something like that, there may be some images to see. Last week we did that with the space telescope photographs, which I thought was really cool. Well, here we go. That was episode 3, I believe.
Yeah, and I that was a whole episode.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. We'll have to save some more news for next time.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I want to get the news in, but
hey, we made it through more than one question.
I made it through more than one question. It was tough.
It was.
It wanted to go on, but
hey, this is your topic. I'm sure eventually we'll get to mine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
I will also pick on myself. Don't worry, guys.
If you don't, I'm going to.
I know.
I'm Randy.
I'm Jen.
This is One Time You Told Me.
Come back for more.